Well, of course, we are in the middle of the holiday season, and for some families, it can be a stressful time, especially for divorced parents. How do you handle the particulars like scheduling, gift giving, and of course, family traditions? Here to help us navigate through it, all our divorce attorneys from SmolenPlevy, SmolenPlevy, and Kathryn Dickerson. Thank you so much for being here. This is a challenging time because everybody wants to have their time with their children. But, Alan, it can be kind of hard to really navigate the ins and outs of how are we going to handle this.
Oh, it's always difficult. Everybody's anxious and the holidays and everybody's excited, but especially the children. And what you've got to remember is who, where, and when. Which child is going where and when. And we've got to keep it simple because they get excited. They need to know where they're going, who they're going to have dinner with. We've had situations where everybody's running around with the children, and suddenly somebody realized the children hadn't eaten because they're in cars going from one house to the next. Blended families also have an especially difficult time because they have families from both spouses, but they may have a child of their own too. So you could have a child and all the children leave, and then one child goes, well, what happened to me? What about me?
Kathryn, it's also, I would imagine, hard if the child doesn't really feel comfortable in the schedule that's being put out there or the plan that's being put in place. Is it important also to have them sort of help out with this and buy into the ideas?
Oh, absolutely. And to the extent that you can keep it as simple as possible for the children, that's great. Part of the wonder of the season is the anticipation. We're all anticipating what's happening. And so if you can coordinate that, especially if there's travel, because not everyone's in this area. We're very mobile as a society. So if you're going from one coast to the other, that can make it even harder. Also, the coordination of the presents, right? The child is anticipating that Santa or somebody will bring them something. If they have to open a present at one parent's house and then leave it, it's not much of a holiday for them.
And Alan, you were mentioning blended families when you've got perhaps two families that are coming together,
Correct.
Maybe for the first time, but separate traditions, separate ways of doing things. How do you navigate that as well?
Well, I suggest that you start new traditions. The old traditions, that was a different chapter. This is a new chapter. This is a new family. You can start with going ice skating or going out to the mall and just looking at all the decorations, or just driving through a neighborhood. It's a time to start anew with the children. It's a lot of fun.
Kathryn, I would imagine there are also some glaring don'ts, some pitfalls that you want to avoid. I mean, what do you think the number one mistake is that families make during this time of year when maybe they're not all together?
Don't give the child or the children any present that you do not want to have in your house. We have had parents who try to compete and outdo each other, and so everyone leaves the holidays with a lot of debt. We have parents who buy, rats, snakes, dogs, cats, for the child to take to the other parent's home, when they know full well that the other parent doesn't want it. Or they try to do too much, so the child is so exhausted that they don't actually enjoy the holidays.
That's a little passive-aggressive, getting the animal that perhaps the other spouse doesn't want.
Especially in this circumstance, the children were, 3 and 5 years old, I believe, and they got 2 white rats.
Yeah, that's, I don't think that was for the children per se.
No.
But I mean, is there also important, a lot of families that are not together perhaps don't communicate the way they should, but is it also important for the husband, ex-husband and ex-wife to say, okay, here is our plan. Let's have a set of rules, if you will, that you don't give the Xbox that I don't want this boy to have, or that you talk it out, if you will.
Well, especially with arrangements. And I suggest everybody after the show communicate with the other person by email and say, okay, I think we're supposed to be doing this. Where are we going to meet? How are we going to do this? And confirm everything. You may have a court order or you may have an agreement telling you, but you may not have looked at that for months or even a year, and you think it says one thing and the other party thinks it says something else. So confirm what you're doing and what time we're doing it, and who's going to feed the children.
And make sure also that the grandparents and the aunts and uncles have bought into this plan as well, because you don't want them to sabotage something that you've already sort of laid out there for everyone.
And especially not saying anything naughty about the other party, or about the family, or the other grand set of parents.
That's important, and it can be stressful for the kids. So really, it's about them and about the family, whether it's together or not together, having a good time and a celebratory time with minimal stress, because it can be hard for them. SmolenPlevy and Kathryn Dickerson, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll have more when Let's Talk Live returns.